Who was Wong Jack Man, the man who made Bruce Lee rethink his fighting style? Wong Jack Man was born in Hong Kong in 1941. Soon after his birth, his family moved north to Guangdong because of the Japanese invasion during World War II. He began his martial arts training at 8 years old with Northern Shaolin master Yim Sung Mo in Central Park Canton in Guangzhou, now known as People's Park. Yim Sung Mo was the top student of the Iron Palm master Gu Yuzhang. In 1955, Wong Jack Man moved to Hong Kong at 14 years old. There, he would continue his kung fu training under Yim Sung Mo's friend, Master Ma Kin Feng. Ma's Shaolin Lohan style was handed down from the great Sun Yat Feng, known as the Nine-Province King of Sabers. For a time, Wong Jack Man learned from both Ma Kin Feng and Yim Sung Mo after Yim Sung Mo moved to Hong Kong and began teaching his own class there. By the age of 19, Wong Jack Man was considered to be a grandmaster with an in-depth knowledge of multiple styles of kung fu and a multitude of weapons. In the early 1960s, Wong Jack Man would move to San Francisco to establish himself as one of the most skilled kung fu sifus in the city. To make ends meet, he worked as a waiter at the Jackson Street Cafe on Jackson Street in Chinatown. He also taught kung fu at a gathering place known as the Jiaosao at the end of Old Chinatown Lane. In 1964, he would fight in a challenge match with a young 24-year-old Bruce Lee. One night, while demonstrating his famed one-inch punch at the Sun Sing Theater, a crowd of spectators got outraged at Bruce Lee for sucker punching the volunteer for his demonstration after Bruce failed to knock him down. Bruce Lee got worked up and told the crowd he could beat any martial artist in San Francisco. He issued an open challenge to anyone who thought they could prove him wrong. Some of the younger kung fu practitioners in San Francisco wanted to take him up on his challenge. Because he was considered to be among the city's best fighters, Wong Jack Man was convinced into fighting Bruce Lee. The fight would happen in Bruce Lee's Jianfan Kung Fu School in Oakland. This back-and-forth battle would leave Bruce Lee winded, with both fighters agreeing to not talk about it. Things could have remained amicable between the two if a reporter for the Chinese Pacific Weekly hadn't written a story about how Bruce Lee suffered a humiliating loss. Thus started a back-and-forth argument between Wong Jack Man and Bruce Lee in the paper, with Wong Jack Man making an open challenge. Lee would never respond to this challenge, and his match with the young grandmaster named Wong Jack Man would largely be forgotten until the late 70s. Despite many people believing Lee easily won the fight, he seemed so disappointed in his performance that he would no longer emphasize his Wing Chun training and began to develop his own fusion of boxing, kicking, and grappling that came to be known as Jeet Kune Do. Despite what seemed to be a contentious rivalry, Wong Jack Man did send flowers to Bruce Lee's funeral 9 years later. During the late 1960s and 70s, Wong Jack Man taught out of his school, the Jingmo Athletic Association, at 880 Pacific Avenue in San Francisco's Chinatown. Sifu Wong was highly regarded in the community, and his students were known as the 880 Boys. He would teach accomplished martial artists like Al Dacascos and Peter Ralston, who was the first white man to win an international kung fu tournament in Taiwan. In the late 1970s, he would leave the location in Chinatown and teach out of Fort Mason Center in San Francisco and across the bay in Oakland. His fight with the world-famous Bruce Lee would not be a topic of discussion until Linda Lee would publish a biography that painted Wong Jack Man as a bigoted kung fu master who fought Lee in an attempt to shut down his school for teaching non-Chinese people. For this, Wong Jack Man would sue Linda Lee for defamation in 1984, losing his case because he was deemed a public figure. This may have been due to an interview he had given in Official Karate magazine. Overall, this is an inaccurate characterization of Sifu Wong Jack Man because throughout the over 40 years he taught martial arts, he would keep a relatively low profile. Some of his students would win victories in combat sports, and many would become qualified instructors. Through it all, he would uphold the martial virtues of Wu De while sharing authentic traditional Chinese martial arts. Near the end of his life, the famous fight he had with Bruce Lee would be featured in a fictitious movie called Birth of the Dragon, starring Philip Eng and Xia Yu. Perhaps due to outside influences, it had a limited run in theaters, not being released in China at all. Most people would eventually see the movie on streaming platforms, and at the very least, the film would dispel the notion that Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man were bitter enemies throughout their lives. A little over 2 years after the release of Birth of the Dragon, Wong Jack Man would pass away on December 26, 2018. With his passing, few would know his true legacy as an influential traditional kung fu master who taught a great many students, regardless of their ethnicity.